Okay, for number one, it says a curve is defined parametrically by the equation. I'm seeing that. It says x is a function of t and y is a function of t. And what I want to do is, I want to see if I can figure this thing out. Because I'll be honest with you, parametrics can be difficult. I'm trying to see if I can get it into Cartesian form. And if I can do that, maybe I could figure this out if I get in Cartesian form. And I'm going to write this down for you. I'm going to write down, I like the square thing because maybe maybe it's going to be something I can recognize. So I'm going to say x squared. That would be equal to t squared. And then at the bottom you get t squared plus 1 squared. And then I'm going to square the other guy too, y squared. It could present a problem for me, by the way. You get 1 over t squared plus 1. By the way, it's not the only way of doing it. And I'm going to add them together now. So x squared plus y squared. I'll just add these two together now. And what do you get? Well, same denominator, right? You get t squared plus 1 squared. That's not so bad, right? And what do you get on top? You get t squared plus 1. Well, I can probably reduce that. And what do you get over here? You would get 1 over t squared plus 1. Well, you know what? I know what that is. It's y. So now I limit the parameter. So I get x squared plus y squared equals y. By the way, there's no restrictions on the t looking at the problem, by the way. T could be any real number. Why is that? Look at the denominator, t squared plus 1. And what do I know about that? It's not that bad, by the way. But I want to just point out what I do know about at this point. I know the y has got to be greater than, and looking at that, it's got to be greater than 0. I hope you know that it's a positive number. All right, I'm not exactly sure what the number is, but I know it's greater than 0. And the x can be, a variety of different numbers. I'm not really quite clear about that, but it could be, you could pick a negative t by way and get a negative number there, all right? So I'm not really clear about the t, but I'm looking at this thing over here, and I think this is a circle. Let's write this down then. So x squared plus y squared minus y is equal to 0. I'm going to complete the square. That's minus y. Half of minus 1 is minus 1/2. You square it, you get plus 1/4. And that would be 1/4 to both sides. What do you get over here? X minus 0 squared. And then you're going to get plus y minus 1/2 squared is equal to 1/4. So the center, this is a circle. I probably should write that down. This is a circle. The center is going to be 0, 1/2, and the radius is going to equal to 1/2. Now I want to go back to the question. I have to read it. And over here it says, the curve is defined parametrically. Determine the equation relating y to x. I just did that. This is the equation that relates y to x. It says sketch its graph and then determine the minimum distance. Oh, that's another question. Let's just graph it out and we'll get to that other question. So I'm going to put a graph down over here. And I'll put the center down as, 0, 1/2. Radius is 1/2. I'll try to draw a circle in. Again, I'm not very good at drawing circles, but something like this over here. All right. So let me just maybe round that a little better. And I gotta ask that question. It says determine the minimum distance of this curve from the point. Oh, it's over here. This point. So I'm going to claim over here, looking at it, the minimum distance. All right, that would be the minimum distance right there. Just visualizing it, right? The question is, can I do that? What's the minimum distance going to be? And I'm going to write this down for you. And what's this going to be over here? This is going to be. Let's take a look at that. This point over here. I know they use decimals in the notes, but I'm going to use not a decimal, but the number, and that number over here is 1/2, 0. What's this number over here? This is the center. The center is going to be 0, 1/2. All right. Now I hope you realize it's really, I don't know, it's kind of like, I guess I could just do the distance between those 2 points to get the midpoint, right? I don't think it's going to work though. So let me take a look at that. Because part of it's just, looking at it, but I'm looking at this thing over here, and I want to get maybe some idea what that point is. And I'm kind of looking at that. I can say that point is going to be x, y. All right, I'm going to keep writing this over and over again. And I'm going to say x. Well, maybe I shouldn't use x. No, I can use x. And then I'm going to write this over here. X squared is equal to y minus y squared. All right? And this is still xy. Let me keep doing this, if I can think this through. X equals, I'm certainly in the first quadrant, so I'm not going to plus or minus. X equals the root of y minus y squared. And let's write this down then. So root y minus y squared, comma y. You know what? I don't think I want to do that. It's just too much work. I could do the distance between the two. I could do the mid. I can't do the midpoint though. That wouldn't be working out. But let's do the whole distance there. All right. Now you may wonder why I want to do the distance. I think the distance might be easier. By the way, my picture is quite deceptive. By the way, it's not the midpoint. It looks like the midpoint, but it's not the midpoint. So what's the distance going to be? Let's do the distance first between those 2 points. If you want to know what 2 points I'm talking about, these 2 points over here. All right. So what's the total distance between those 2 points? Let's write that down. And again, this other stuff was just too much work to find out what that point was. And we could, but it's just too much work for me. Maybe I should erase that. In other words, going over this, it's just too much work. And I'll erase this over here too. Just too much work. All right, but I'll get the distance though. What's this going to be? The root. Well, it's going to be, 1/2 minus 0 plus 0 minus 1/2 squared. What does this give you? The root 1/4 plus 1/4, which is going to be the root of 2/4. So the distance is going to be what? It's going to be root 2 over 2. Or, if you prefer, 1 over root 2. All right? So the total distance between this point there and that point there is 1 over root 2. What's the radius, though? It's 1/2. So what's this distance over here going to be? It's going to be the full distance, which is 1 over root 2, minus the radius. The radius is 1/2. Let me write that down for you. I'm going to write it a little differently. I'm going to write it as 2 root 2, 2 minus root 2. If you want to rationalize it, you can. Let me just go through that with you. You multiply the top and bottom by root 2. You're going to get 4 in the bottom, and you're going to get 2 root 2 minus 2. I'm going to divide through by 2, so root 2 minus 1 over 2, which is probably the best looking answer there. All right. Again, towards the end, I always say that sometimes my pictures are deceptive, and that's one of the problems with drawing your own pictures, by the way. Computer would be nice to have. But the answer would be root 2 minus 1 over 2. By the way, these are also acceptable answers. I want to point out most people do not find these answers any better than the other answers listed over there. But they're all the same answer. Thank you.